Thank you all. I'm calling to order the Planning and Development Committee for January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Would you please call the roll?
Sokaitis.
Here.
Folks.
Here.
Bongard.
Here.
Munns. Here. Lencioni.
Yes.
Gem.
Here.
Petrilla.
Here.
Warball.
Here.
Bessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Well, thank you all. I'm glad to get together tonight, although it will be brief because we have one item today. Number 4, Community and Economic Development, consideration of a request to amend the natural area easement at 888 Fox Glen Drive. Thank you. Take it away.
Hello. Thank you. A request to reduce the natural area easement at 888 Fox Glen Drive has been submitted by Katie Fish, a realtor representing the property owner. The property is located in the woods of Fox Glen subdivision. The rear yards of lots within the subdivision are encumbered by a natural area easement as designated on the plat of subdivision. Within this easement, removal of trees and other plants is restricted, as well as any construction activity or improvements. The subject property is the largest lot in the subdivision at about 4.5 acres, and it's a flag lot with access from Fox Glen Drive. There's a natural area easement over the northern and the eastern 100 feet of the primary parcel. Let me open that item. Just open the plat of survey. Okay. So that's the northern portion of the 100-foot easement and the eastern. A prospective buyer of the property is seeking to reduce the easement to allow for 2 projects. The first is a pool project, which falls within the eastern easement, which is behind the house. So requested is to reduce this portion of the easement by 90 feet, and also 31 trees would be removed from that area as well to allow for the pool and pool deck and landscaping. The second project is a driveway project which falls within the northern easement. Requested is to reduce this portion by 40 feet, which would allow the driveway here to be widened for additional parking. No trees would need to be removed for that item. In the past, the city has allowed for reductions of the easement within the subdivision for pools and patios based on each unique circumstance of each lot and existing vegetation. The Woods of Fox Glen Owners Association has provided conceptual approval of the proposal, but noted that the full board needs to take a vote on the item. Based on the comparison of the nearby lots and the size of this lot and the easement area to remain, staff believes this request is reasonable. Once the committee provides a recommendation, the owner would need written approval from the HOA board and a plat of easement vacation prior to council action. And I can take any questions from the applicants here as well.
Thank you. Questions, Alderman Petrella?
So, Ellen, is there, this is in my, I don't know, 5 or so years on the council, we've had this something similar like this come before us. I'm not sure, at least I can think of 3 times, maybe this is the 3rd one. I'm not necessarily against it, this proposal. However, I mean, is there any way, we don't have a copy of the easement language in front of us, but I just feel like every time something like this comes up before us, I feel like we need more like guardrails or more like findings of fact or some sort of rubric or matrix to follow to determine whether something's reasonable or not. Is that something that we can explore moving forward? Just because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to cut down trees that you guys want to buy the property. I don't want to hinder your property, but at the same time, I mean, what's the point of an easement if we're going to chip away at it all the time? So.
Yeah, something kind of unique about the easement in this subdivision is that for a lot of the lots, the easement comes all the way almost to the rear of the house. So it really doesn't allow for any usable backyard, and staff's opinion, kind of the way we've looked at it is it's reasonable to have an open area behind the house to use. But yeah, in terms of like the extent of that, it's definitely subjective.
That makes sense. I mean, perhaps there could be some language, again, in Planning Commission, you know, we have findings of fact. Does it impact neighbors, you know, what have you, property values, what have you. Is there I get that, because it's pretty tight. It looks tight, and, I don't know, if we can explore that, I would love to have that discussion, so.
Brian?
So I'm looking at the history of what we've done in this neighborhood, and it looks like the highest percentage that we've approved in the past was 28%, so we're at 33%. So I think for me, the issue is what precedents are we setting? It's very subjective. You know, do we go, is the next time 40%, 50%? What determines that? I'm okay working with them, trying to accommodate them. I would just like to dial it back just a little bit. Maybe the pole can be moved just a little bit, and maybe the trees, I think 1 through 7, those trees are being moved to bring equipment in. We've made other residents replant those trees. So I recall probably last year we had a family replant trees. Is that something that we can require?
Yes, we can, and I spoke to the applicant, and they are agreeable to replanting or replacing trees as required.
Okay. And then, so can we get, is there a way to get the 33% down to maybe, let's say 25, somewhere in that range? That's a little, I think a little bit more, because I just feel like we're setting a precedent, the threshold keeps getting higher, and I understand they're trying to do something, because the next one's going to be 38 and 40, and the next thing you know, you got half the backyard getting cut down, because the next person's going to say, well, they were able to do it, why can't, you know, and we're kind of, you know, I think we have an obligation with the easement, the restrictions, to kind of, you know, be reasonable about it and accommodate when we can. So I'm okay voting in favor of this if there's perhaps a condition of 25% or less, and then replant whatever, and if that includes replanting the trees, I'm okay with that, but as it is right now, I wouldn't support it the way it is.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. You know, I echo concerns that both of the Fourth Ward aldermen have, mostly around the policy piece. It would be really helpful, I think, if wherever it is that the easement, the conservation easement originated, if that was from the HOA board or if that was from the city, if that can be reviewed so that we understand what's the purpose of that, and are we going to take an overall comprehensive look at that? Because as you start to make exceptions, you just open up all kinds of things. Like I'm fairly new to the city council, and now I am subject to previous exceptions where I don't necessarily think I would have made those exceptions. And it's a slippery slope. If I say no, but other people have said yes, that's a difficult thing to say. And the only reasons that I would say I am concerned about this are, this is a conservation easement, and to make those exceptions for the purposes of more driveway and a pool, it's hard to say from the purpose of conservation that those are good use. If you were looking for open space, that still, you know, conservation-wise makes sense. But I understand this is private property too. So it's a bit tricky in this area, and I also understand that their neighbors, there are neighbors of theirs who have had this done for them, where this has been made an exception just at a smaller scale. So it makes it really difficult for us, not understanding what these parameters are, why the HOA has said yes in some cases, have they said no in some cases, you know, where are we being fair, where are we not, and is it just one specific buyer that is interested in this? Is there a buyer that is interested in it as it is? It's beautiful.
Would you like to hear from the applicant?
That would be great.
There.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So we could understand that maybe.
Okay. Please state your name for the record.
Oh, yes, I am Katie Fish.
Thank you, Katie.
Brian.
Yes.
First, this home site, when you see this here, I went through Unit 1 and I brought a roll of Unit 2 because that's the only one I could find. The next largest home site, our home site is I'm the listing agent, 195,000 square feet. The next largest is 68,000 square feet. And this is a very interesting property, filled with ravines. It's not a flat lot. It is hilly. it's quite intense, actually. And the original developer, Hank Harrison, was the owner of this property. So he selected this for himself. So it is beyond anything that you would see there. It's also set back, so creating privacy around the pool is not really even going to be necessary, but the owners are willing to replant trees. The new buyers are not here being represented, but multiple buyers do ask. I've had open houses and everyone asks, where would we put a pool? And I did not even realize they were natural area easements until I started delving into this and then talked to the HOA. So, yeah.
Any follow-ups? Is that answer satisfied? Alfred Sokak.
Thank you. I have a problem at 33%, get rid of a third of the easement. That's something that I will not support. I can't support it. Some reasonable number, like Alderman Warble said, would be okay, but those easements were there for a reason when they built these projects. We wanted them there. And now to start removing them piece by piece is not the way that I want to handle it. And another thing, the 31 trees, I'm looking at the chart, most of them are in good shape. And so I have a problem removing the dead trees. I'm not even worried about replacing them. And you said replacing the trees, what would be the diameter? I mean, are they going to replace with what the diameter of what they've removed?
No, probably smaller seedlings.
Seedlings, that's not gonna, I mean, I'd have to be at least 4 or 6 inches.
I would assume that's what we would
before I could accept that.
I'm looking at my landscaper over here, so I would assume it would be something that would grow.
6 inch. Okay, 6 inch, yeah, okay. Might be acceptable.
How would you feel if we offered square foot to square foot to give more easement back to this property? As you can see, where the southern point of the red line, we could easily draw, up to 40,000 square feet back. We're asking for about 22,000 square feet.
Well, what percent would that be of the properties? 33% now you want to remove. What would that change that number to?
So it would be then, if we gave back 22,000 square feet, then it would be 0 because it would be wash. So we would be giving and...
Interesting. I'd like to see a plan before I commit to anything. I'm not going to try to visualize it.
Okay, so basically my plan, just so you understand, would be taking a rectangle and using my measurement tool on the bottom southern portion, and I would share that, I would attach it to home sites, I think it's 17 and 18 right there, so that those neighbors would be guaranteed that they have natural easement behind them adjacent to this lot. And as you'll see, a lot of these natural easements do generously give back to each neighbor. So in this case, we would give that there. We're at the end of the neighborhood here too, so the next street over up north is Army Trail Road, Wayne address, and then to the right. So any construction, anybody who's going to be watching this construction is going to be seeing it from over an acre and a half away from their patios. So you'd like me to draw up
well, I'd like to
what
see
it would
something,
look like.
some concept where I can actually see something to see what we're changing. But the whole point of say the easements was to protect
and
so conserve the trees and the vegetation back there.
And the HOA, we would be probably the only home site that would ever be able to do this. Every other property is right on top of their backyard, and the easement is right there. We would be the only one who'd take the opportunity, so maybe we'd have to do more than just matching square foot for square foot to make a statement to say we're the biggest and we're going to make sure that we're going to preserve as much as we can. There really is no other place to put this pool. We tried to wiggle it around and move away from the natural area easement. It can't be done. The house is literally right on top of it. Right off the patio, boom, you're in the natural easement.
Well, I say I have my concerns, but may continue.
Well, I appreciate your counter, if you will. Unless I know that we have other questions, but I'm not going to make a motion, but I would suggest then we table then, and if you can get us
of course.
Or maybe I'll make a motion. I move to table.
Motion to suspend or to Sure.
The table,
So,
suspended.
Even if you could give me 3 minutes, I have my measuring tool, I can do this right now.
Because we want opinion on what you proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to comments. I've got some other comments as well. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's best to maybe table it, work with staff, come back with a more reasonable number, and all those details, I would rather work with staff, and then just come back and present again. So,
All right, so.
I understand what you want to do, and I just
Right.
think we like to see things in writing and in the percentages and things like that, but I think it's a reasonable,
And where did Ellen go? Oh, when is the next meeting?
It's, next month,
So we have another month to wait. Okay. Real estate doesn't sleep, and it's very anxious, so.
Hang on one second.
Okay.
I got a couple more, comments.
Hey, Ellen, can you just go back and talk a little bit about some of the past requests and what your department has granted? So I hear the concern, you know, we have these easements, you know, we don't want to walk away from them, makes sense. But can you walk through, so how many of these requests did we have in 2024? How many did we grant, how many did we approve in Fox Glen or citywide?
I believe there was just one in this neighborhood in 2024.
Okay,
Prior to that, I think there was one in 2021 in this neighborhood.
2021.
I believe so. Russ, do you know the number? Maybe 4, 5 most?
Yeah, in the past 5 years, there's probably been 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that doesn't seem like a lot, but.
Alderperson Bezer.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly that I'm okay with the 33% in regards to the size of the lot versus the other lot. So we can compare 28 to 33 or 25 as Councilmember Wirball stated. But I do agree with Councilmember Munns in regards to we should put some kind of a policy in place, not necessarily for the exact percentage, but to look at the size of the lots versus other size of the lots that we did approve this one way or the other.
Cool. Alderperson Weber?
I just wanted to say, I mean, if somebody wants to table it and get more information, that's fine. I'm fine with the way it is right now. I'd be good with it. I feel like this parcel is very unique compared to the rest. So I don't feel like we'd be setting a precedent because this parcel by itself is different than all the other ones. So I'm good with it the way it is right now.
So, right now, Ms. Fish, for you, there's a couple ideas up here, and there's gonna be some motion made. I'd like, to kind of ask you, because I can imagine a couple things happen. So we could motion postpone for a month. I personally would accept also, I like your idea of trading, and I also, like, if we gave guidance to staff, you know, I would be comfortable and might ask somebody if they agree to make a motion to trade land for land, to a certain condition, and as long as it satisfies staff to approve with resolution of staff oversight, so they don't have to come back here, because it sounds like if you could have approval within the month, like before waiting for next month, that might be helpful. Or of course, there's always, you know, we can have a motion to postpone for a month, or also you can ask us to vote on it and take your chances whether it passes or not. So I would be curious what you would prefer.
Well, if I ask,
yes.
I mean, we've done, maybe there's a couple other, it could go right to council. I mean, there's a risk, that's almost like asking us to vote today. But, I mean, haven't we done this before? We've tacked on a planning item to another committee's agenda. Maybe we don't have to wait a month. Is that acceptable?
Potentially, or if you were to make a recommendation with conditions, we could make sure those conditions are met and then place it on a council item with an
And then
update.
put it at the council.
I was gonna say, why don't I make a motion with conditions, and then we can see if they can meet those conditions. So I'll make a motion to approve, the request not to exceed 25%, replant the trees, and to do some sort of land swap, with the natural easement.
Second.
So approval with staff consideration of meeting.
Yeah, with that condition, yes.
Okay, cool.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion, or, okay? Why don't we call the roll?
Sulkitis.
Oh, first, yes.
Foltz.
Yes.
Von Guard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Petrola.
Yes.
Yes.
Fessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes. Excellent, that passes.
Hey, Ellen, I just have one quick question, I was done. So the previous two that have been approved, do we have any idea what percentage of their property was approved?
Not off the top of my head. I can get that number for
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't there for either of those, I just wonder, comparison, obviously, this is the largest lot in that subdivision.
Right.
And having driven through it on Sunday, it's like, it's way back there.
Yeah.
But if we don't want to set an unusual precedent, as my colleagues have said, to do that.
Right.
But if we can meet.
Yeah, I'll pull that for
Yeah,
for
that'd
you.
just be helpful to see what else is going on in that area.
So, Ms. Fisher, just go ahead and grab Ellen and Russ. They'll explain kind of how what we did works, and it's along the lines of what you were proposing. So this should be pretty workable for you. And then what you come up with, as long as it meets staff's approval, it'll go to the city council. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, that is business of the day. Is there any public comment? No. Additional items from staff, elected officials, Alderman Moore.
I just want to wish Alderperson Weber a happy birthday on Wednesday.
Any other additional items? Okay, seeing none, we have nothing for executive session, so I'm just looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Wirball, second by Petrella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you.
I feel like every